for them to do threat modeling for these applications particularly? Like, what is the kind of framework you suggest them to follow? What is the approach? What is the methodology? Where do they start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to admit that I will be biased to PASTA, right? So the process for attack simulation threat analysis. However, I used to do debate in college and in high school, I'll be very objective. If you're just starting out in threat modeling and you are testing a decouple or modular application, right? Um, you want to keep it simple. You know, some of the times it's easy to be tempted to try to overscope an application to threat model. Keep it simple, keep the use cases or features that you want to threat model to be tight and to be most relevant to the main function of that particular application. It's very easy to overscope. And if you overscope, you're going to overcomplicate your threat modeling activity. And you're also going to probably maybe confuse your audience, your intended stakeholders in the threat modeling effort. So I would say start simple. Now, you also have to ask yourself, okay, well, if you're in an industry where security is a non-negotiable, maybe you are threat modeling an application in a nuclear power plant, as an example, or maybe as part of a military, deployment. Maybe there's an application that you have developed, your team has developed that has related to military, operations. Then I would say a security centric approach is best, right? Where you want to think of all the possible harms that could happen associated with threats. Now, most developers and product teams are not operating in such strict security confines. So I would suggest a risk centric approach. A risk centric approach says in security, I can't ensure that I'm going to have zero risk, right? There is a principle in finance where zero risk doesn't exist. In security, there's also no such thing as zero risk. So, what are the types of risks that are A, most likely to happen? B, have a greater incentive to happen, maybe from a threat actor. And C would be most prevalent because maybe my attack surface is very broad, or the deployment of my component in my application is right there on the edge of an internet accessible, network. And I would just use that as an approach to say, well, let me use simple conditions to say what is likely, and then associate weaknesses that I find, insecurities that I find that substantiate that threat. If it doesn't substantiate one, two, three threat assertions in my threat model, I move on. As an example, in the banking and financial industry, we oftentimes know that data is king, right? We have credit card data,
Yeah.
we have account data, but data is not king in the energy sector. Continuity is king, right? So
Yeah.
if you have energy distribution of resources and you have applications that are responsible for the distribution of that energy, then you want to make sure that your threat model really hones in on the threat against availability versus your threat model against financial applications, banking applications might prioritize the compromise of account data.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, you're talking about risks on the basis of essentially threats which are more focused on your key business priorities rather than looking at it more theoretically, that, always thinking from one perspective, either data or control or something else.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head because oftentimes in security, for whatever reason, we lose sight of the innate security knowledge that we have as humans, right? So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. You live in India, in Bangalore, right? So our security mechanisms that we have to protect our personal lives, our household lives, are innate to our thinking. We are influenced by intel that we get, incidents that happen in our neighborhoods, in our cities, and that affects how we change our security posture. We don't do this in security programs, especially in the AppSec area. We like to use a lot of frameworks, which is nothing wrong with that. But you want to look at the lens of risk from the context of, like, why does this product exist? Is this product making my organization money? Is it making, 70% of overall revenue? And is availability or the lack thereof undermining or contributing to that revenue, right? You want to think in terms of why does this product exist? That the risk context will come from the rationale for why that product exists in the first place, not in terms of security vernacular.
Yeah, and I think while you were talking about it, it's very much of a first principles thinking that you're thinking business first,
Right.
because business is the reason that you are even looking at threats in the first place.